Tonight, before the room grows too quiet, imagine the bed beneath you disappearing one comfort at a time. No foam rising back under your shoulder, no springs quietly sharing your weight. No smooth factory seam promising that both sides will behave the same way. You have instead a bag, a frame, a pile of whatever the season and your purse have allowed, and the ancient hope that the night will be kind. If you enjoy slow, quiet histories like this, feel free to subscribe to Boring Nights, and like the video so more calm stories can find their way to sleepy listeners. And if you are still awake enough, tell us where you are watching from, and what hour the old mattress has found you. Now let the lamps lower. Somewhere outside, the rain or wind can do its patient work, while we step into a house where bedding is not bought in a wrapped rectangle, but assembled from fields, animals, trade, labor, and a surprising amount of disappointment. The bed is a record of work. It remembers the harvest, the sheep washing, the flax breaking, the goose plucking, the long winter damp, and the small domestic arguments about who shook the ticking badly and left a lump exactly where a human hip would like to rest. You wake before dawn on a mattress that has given up pretending to be flat. The ticking, a stout woven cover of linen, hemp, or later cotton, has softened from use and darkened where hands have pulled it. Beneath your ribs, straw has shifted into ridges. Beneath your knees, the filling has thinned until the rope bed below presses upward like a quiet accusation. Congratulations! Your bed has developed geography. There is a valley near your spine, a hill near your shoulder, and a mysterious hard place that was not there last night, but has chosen to become part of your personality. In poorer cottages, this is normal. Bedding begins as a practical defense against the cold earth, not as a promise of orthopedic bliss. A sack of straw, chaff hay, dried leaves, rushes, or bracken lifts you away from the floor. A pallet can be dragged near the hearth, shaken outside, patched, shared, and sometimes surrendered to insects. Wealthier households may have wool, feathers, down, layered blankets, curtains, and bedsteads high enough to make a sleeping person look important. Yet even status has its small betrayals. Feathers clump, wool compacts. Linen mildews, rope sacks. Bedbugs are remarkably uninterested in your social rank. So we begin where every old bed begins, not with sleep, but with maintenance. Before anyone dreams, someone must gather, dry, sort, stuff, sew, air, beat, turn, and pray. The old mattress is less a product than a recurring chore shaped like a place to lie down. And as you pull your blanket closer in this half-lit room, you can already feel the central truth of the episode. Before springs and foam, comfort was possible, but it was never automatic. It had to be rebuilt, again and again, by tired hands. The first minutes of wakefulness are therefore not separate from the mattress. They are evidence of it. A creaking frame tells you which rope loosened. A cooler patch tells you where the filling thinned. A faint scent of straw tells you whether the last airing worked. Even before breakfast, the bed has become part of the day's labor, because someone will have to decide whether to shake it, patch it, turn it, or ignore it with the optimism that makes civilization possible. At first light, The raw materials arrive without romance. They come in carts, bundles, sacks, baskets, and aprons, carrying the smell of fields and animals into the yard. Straw rustles in tied sheaves. Hay gives off a sweeter, greener breath if it has been kept dry, and a sour warning if it has not. Wool comes greasy and warm with lanolin, bits of burr and dung still clinging to the curls. Flax and hemp bring their own dry, stalky smell, while feathers drift out of bags like little scraps of weather that refuse to obey gravity. A mattress before modern industry is only as good as the landscape feeding it. Rye straw is valued because its long, hollow stems can make a springier bed than short, broken chaff, at least for a while. Oat straw is common in many places, but crushes more easily. Hay may smell pleasant, yet it can hide seeds, dust, and living guests who consider a sleeping human a generous landlord. In woodland districts, people use dried leaves, moss, fern, bracken, or heather. Along rivers and marshes, rushes and reeds serve for floor coverings and rough bedding. Nothing is simply natural in the soft modern sense. Nature arrives scratchy, damp, dusty, and full of opinions. You stand near the doorway while the household judges the supply. Fingers test stems for dryness. A bent piece is snapped and listened to. Too much softness may mean mold waiting inside. Too much brittleness means the filling will soon collapse into powder. The elderly woman who knows bedding better than anyone in the house rubs a handful between her palms and makes a face. This is an ancient quality control department, and it does not require a clipboard. It requires a nose, a lifetime of bad nights, and the ability to say, with devastating calm, that this cartload will not do. For the better bed, animal products matter. Wool can be teased, washed, dried, and stuffed into a tick to make a mattress warmer and more durable than straw. Feathers and down, especially from geese, ducks, or swans where laws and wealth allow, create softness that seems miraculous compared with a rustling sack of stalks. But feathers are never free of labor. They must be collected, cleaned, dried, and guarded from damp. A feather bed can be a sign of prosperity, even part of a dowry, because it represents time converted into comfort. The poor do not lack skill, they lack surplus. If the harvest was thin, the bedding is thin. If a roof leaked, the filling suffers. If animals ate what might have stuffed a pallet, then the human body negotiates with the floor. In this way, the old mattress tells the truth about a household more honestly than polite conversation does. It says whether the farm had enough straw, whether the flock produced good wool, whether geese survived the season, whether someone had time to sow. And all these humble materials, still smelling of barn and field, are about to be transformed into the place where everyone hopes, perhaps unwisely, to rest. The yard becomes a map of possible sleep. The cleanest straw goes one way, the doubtful bundle another. Feathers are guarded from dogs, children, and wind. Wool waits for washing or carding. Nothing here resembles a packaged good, and that is the point. The old bed begins as a negotiation with everything the household can gather before the dark months return. Once the materials are brought in, the first real work is sorting, because an old mattress punishes laziness with remarkable precision. One overlooked thorn can become a nightly landmark. One damp handful can spread a stale smell through the ticking. A few insect eggs hidden in straw can turn a bed from poor comfort into a small domestic tragedy. So the household spreads the filling in the yard, on cloths, boards, hurdles, or clean patches of swept earth, and the quiet judging begins. Straw is shaken loose and examined by hand. Long stems are kept for the better mattress. Shorter pieces save for animal litter, kindling, or the roughest pallets. Dust rises in a pale cloud when the bundles are opened, catching sunlight like smoke. The work sounds gentle from a distance, a dry whisper, a scrape, the soft percussion of stalks tapped against wood. Up close it makes eyes water and noses itch. People who slept on straw did not need an historian to tell them about particulate matter. They discovered it every time they rolled over too enthusiastically. Wool demands another patience. Fresh fleece must be skirted with the dirtiest edges pulled away. Burrs are picked out. Locks are opened. Grease clings to the fingers. Washing can remove some of the smell and dirt, but too much harsh handling mats the fibers. Too little leaves the bed with a sheepish personality. The cleanest wool is precious, and household thrift often mixes grades together. A good layer may be placed where shoulders and hips fall, while coarser bits go toward the edges, because even before memory foam, people understood the politics of pressure points. Feathers are fussier still. Quills jab. Down escapes. A draft through the room can send wealth floating into corners. Anyone who has ever tried to stuff a pillow knows that feathers behave as if they have been personally insulted by containment. They cling to sleeves, hair, lips, and the damp side of a hand. They must be thoroughly dry, because a feather bed that has taken on moisture becomes heavy, sour, and difficult to rescue. In some households, feathers are saved slowly over years, a little from each bird, until there is enough for a pillow, then perhaps a bolster, then one day, if fortune is unusually polite, a full feather mattress. This sorting is not a picturesque pause. It is the invisible engineering of sleep. Without steel coils or molded foam, the structure comes from choosing the right fibers, removing what will hurt, and arranging what remains so the body can sink without striking the support below. The work teaches a simple old lesson. Comfort is not found in the material alone. It is found in all the patient decisions made before the material ever enters the bed. Sorting also protects dignity. A guest bed filled carelessly insults the visitor. A marriage bed stuffed with poor materials tells a story nobody wants told aloud. Even a servant's pallet, made rough by necessity, benefits from someone removing the worst thorns and damp patches. Good sorting is compassion performed before anyone lies down. The tools used for bedding do not look dramatic, which is exactly how they get away with hurting people. A wooden rake, a willow basket, a blunt knife, a heckle for flax, cards for wool, a needle thick enough to respect, a mallet, a pole for beating, and a pair of hands already marked by other work. No one enters the workshop like a hero. They enter with sleeves rolled, shoulders tired, and the knowledge that the bed will not fill itself. For straw and hay, the tools are simple but unforgiving. Stems must be cut, shaken, combed loose, and sometimes softened by handling. The worker bends again and again, lifting a mass that seems light until the 100th repetition. Dust coats the throat. Splinters slip under nails. A rough stalk slides beneath a cuff and scratches the wrist. If the mattress is meant for a bedstead with ropes, the filling must be prepared evenly enough that the sleeper does not fall into alternating stripes of comfort and regret. Wool requires cards, those flat paddles set with little metal teeth. The fleece is drawn between them until the locks open and align. The motion looks almost peaceful. After an hour, it becomes a negotiation with the forearms. The teeth catch at knots. Grease and fine dirt gather on the tools. Carding too aggressively can break fibers. Carding too gently leaves lumps. Person doing this by firelight learns to feel the texture more than see it, because evening work belongs as much to fingertips as to eyes. The tick itself, the fabric case that holds the filling, adds another layer of punishment. Strong ticking must be closely woven, so straw ends and feathers do not escape. Linen, hemp, or cotton cloth is cut and sewn with heavy thread. The seams are reinforced because the mattress will be dragged, rolled, beaten, sat upon, bounced on by children who have apparently never respected upholstery and occasionally inhabited by pests. The needle enters stubborn cloth with a small pop. The palm pushes. The thread rasps through. A careless stitch becomes tomorrow's leak. Beating tools are used after the mattress is filled and later throughout its life. A pole or paddle breaks up clumps and drives out dust, at least in theory. In practice, it also reminds the house that bedding is a public event. The mattress is hauled into open air, slapped until pale clouds rise, turned, slapped again, and judged by neighbors who pretend not to notice. Modern people complain about rotating a mattress twice a year. In the older world, comfort often required a minor wrestling match before breakfast. By the end, the tools are set aside with fibers caught in their teeth and dust along their handles. They have made no music except rasping, tapping, and the worker's breath. Yet without them, there is no bed worth naming. The quiet tools have turned raw matter into the possibility of rest, while taking their payment from fingers, palms, and backs. First slow transformation is the moment when separate, stubborn materials begin to resemble bedding. Straw becomes a filled sack. Wool becomes an even layer. It is not magic, but from a cold household floor, it can feel close enough. A flat piece of fabric lies open, patient and empty, while the room gathers around it with handfuls of the season. Stuffing a mattress is an art of distribution. Too much filling in the middle makes a mound that rolls the sleeper toward the edge. Too little makes the hips find the bed ropes below. Corners are difficult because they invite laziness. A worker pushes material into them with forearms, sticks, or clenched hands, pressing until the cloth takes shape. The mattress must be plump, but not absurdly tight, flexible, but not loose enough for the contents to migrate like villagers fleeing a tax collector. With straw, the sound is immediate. Every handful whispers and crackles. The worker tries to align longer stems so they spring a little rather than knot into sharp nests. A fresh straw mattress can smell bright and clean like harvest kept indoors. For the first few nights, it may even feel surprisingly good. Then, the body begins its ancient experiment. Weight crushes the stems. Moisture from the room and sleeper softens them. Edges settle. The center compacts. The mattress gradually learns the shape of the person above it, and unfortunately refuses to forget. Wool changes more gently. It can be layered, teased, and patted into a broad cushion. It holds warmth, which is a blessing in a cold house and a trial in summer. It also absorbs odors and moisture. If properly aired, it can last. If neglected, it becomes dense, sour, and heavy. Feather filling is the luxury version of the same struggle. It rises and flows beautifully when dry, but it gathers into clumps when damp and sometimes sends quills through the ticking like tiny declarations of war. When the last seam is closed, the mattress has entered its working life. It is lifted, shaken, and placed on a frame, pallet, or floor. Someone presses a palm into it, judging the give. Someone else says it will do. That little phrase, so common in old households, carries both hope and resignation. It will do for tonight. It will do until harvest. It will do until the daughter marries and takes better bedding with her. It will do because in a world before springs and foam, perfect is rarely invited to sleep indoors. A new mattress may be admired for its height and freshness, but older people know not to trust the first evening completely. Let it settle, they might say. Sleep on it twice. See where the filling goes. Old bedding reveals its character slowly, like a neighbor who seems charming until you share a wall during winter. Water is both helper and enemy in old bedding. It washes wool, softens cloth, cleans feathers, and raises flax from stiff plant into fiber. It also ruins straw, fattens mold, chills sleepers, and turns a mattress into a damp creature that seems to breathe the smell of cellars. Every household knows this double nature. The same bucket that improves one part of the bed can destroy another if used at the wrong time, in the wrong weather, with too little patience afterward. Wool washing begins with warmth, soap if available, and care. Too much heat, too much rubbing, or sudden changes in temperature can felt the fibers into a dense mat. The worker wants the dirt out, but the spring left in. Lanolin gives the fleece its particular feel and scent. Removing every trace is neither easy nor always desired. In rural households, washing may happen outdoors, near a stream or tub, with fleece spread afterward on hedges, lines, racks, or clean grass. The drying matters as much as the washing. A fleece put away damp is not clean bedding. It is a future problem folded politely. Feathers require even more caution. They must be freed from blood, dirt, and skin, then dried thoroughly. Some are placed near gentle heat, stirred and turned so that no damp core remains. A scorched feather smells terrible, and a damp feather bed can smell worse, especially after a few nights under blankets and human warmth. In well-run households, feather bedding is aired whenever weather allows. In poorly ventilated rooms, it becomes heavy and stale, a soft trap of yesterday's breath. The ticking cloth also responds to water. Linen and hemp may be washed, beaten, bleached in sun, and dried until stiff. Freshly cleaned fabric can feel almost wholly compared with the grimy cover it replaced. Yet cloth shrinks, seams pull, and patches reveal weak spots. If the mattress cover is washed too late in the year, damp weather may keep it from drying quickly. Then the bed must wait, and the sleeper returns to some older, rougher pallet with the tragic dignity of someone demoted by laundry. Weight enters the story whenever wet materials are lifted. A sack of damp wool is no longer the soft, airy thing promised by sheep. It drags at the arms, wet ticking clings. A feather bag becomes awkward and lopsided. The body that seeks rest must first carry the materials of rest through washing, turning, wringing, and drying. Modern comfort hides water inside machines and factories. Older bedding makes water visible, heavy and morally complicated, standing between the household and a decent night's sleep. This is why sunny days become household opportunities. A clear sky is not merely pleasant. It is equipment. The sun dries, lightens, sweetens, and exposes. When the weather offers a few clean hours, the old household uses them, because comfort left damp will collect interest in the form of smell, chill, and work delayed. By evening, the bedding work moves indoors to a workshop lit by habit more than brightness. It may be a corner of the main room, a loft, a shed, or the space beside the hearth after cooking has ended. The air holds layered smells: wood smoke, wool grease, dry straw, old linen, supper, damp boots, and the faint sourness of things that should have been aired longer. A candle or rushlight gives enough glow to guide the hands, not enough to flatter the room. Here the bed is built by domestic choreography. One person holds the ticking open, another passes filling. A child is told not to step on the clean cloth and immediately considers stepping on it. Needles are counted because losing one inside bedding is not a charming mistake, it is a future scream. The older worker sits where the light falls best and inspects seams with an expression that has ended many arguments before they began. The workshop is not separate from life. Chickens may mutter outside the door. A baby may sleep in a cradle nearby. Someone may mend stockings at the same table where wool is being teased. In urban homes, the bedding trade can be more specialized. Upholsterers, feather dealers, mattress makers, and seamstresses perform parts of the work for customers who can pay. But even professional shops are intimate with dust and fiber. Ticking is stacked, cord is measured, fillings are weighed, and every promised bed must become an object that can survive transport, bargaining, and use. The light matters. Before electric brightness, flaws hide easily. A lumpy corner may pass unnoticed until night. A weak seam may look sound until pressure tests it. A feather quill may remain buried until it announces itself under someone's shoulder blade at 2 in the morning. This is why skilled hands are trusted. They feel density, grain, and tension. They know by touch whether the filling is even. They pat and press, then listen to the surface settle. There's comfort in this work, even when the result will never match a modern bed. The household is making a place for bodies to recover. The act is humble, repetitive, and necessary. A mattress is not only a thing slept upon, it is proof that someone expected tomorrow to require strength. Around the low light, tired people build that expectation one seam, one handful, one quiet correction at a time. The room quiets when the final knot is tied. The worker lifts the mattress edge and hears the filling answer. It is not perfect, but it is present. In a world where darkness comes early and floors are cold, that presence matters. A bed made by lamplight is a promise stitched into cloth. Old bedding is full of small mistakes that ruin a day because sleep is where tiny errors become enormous. A poorly dried bundle of straw does not seem dangerous at noon. By midnight, it smells like a wet barn thinking dark thoughts. A seam left slightly open may look harmless until feathers wander out and attach themselves to every sleeve in the house. A corner stuffed too firmly can lift one side of the sleeper and make the whole body feel as if it has been parked on a slope. One common mistake is impatience with drying. A clear morning tempts everyone to believe the weather will remain friendly. Bedding is spread outside, and clouds gather with the quiet malice of weather that has read your plans. If rain catches wool, feathers, or a straw tick before it can be rescued, the household loses hours or days. The wet thing must be dried again, and if dampness reaches the interior, there may be no easy fix. Mold does not announce itself politely. It waits, then sends up that stale, earthy smell that clings to cloth and conscience. Another mistake is trusting clean appearance over hidden life. Straw and hay can carry mites, beetles, fleas, and seeds. Feathers can hide lice or unpleasant residues. Bed bugs are in a category of their own, because they live not only in bedding, but in cracks of bedsteads, walls, chests, and paneling. A fresh tick placed onto an infested frame is like putting clean sheets on a battlefield and declaring peace. People used heat, sunlight, herbs, smoke, washing, beating, and desperate persistence, yet the insects often treated these efforts as light entertainment. Overstuffing is its own comedy. A proud new mattress bulges beautifully, then refuses to lie flat. It lifts blankets, strains, and makes turning over feel like crossing a hill. Understuffing is sadder. The sleeper sinks until the bed ropes, boards, or floor speak directly to bone. In rope beds, loose tension worsens everything. A sagging support can make even a good mattress droop into the middle, where two sleepers meet by gravity rather than affection. The punishment for these mistakes arrives at dawn. A stiff neck, a damp smell, a rash, a suspicious trail of straw across the room. Someone mutters that the bed must be opened again. This is the quiet cruelty of old bedding. The work is never finished, simply because the mattress is sewn shut. The night examines every choice and returns its verdict through the body. The wiser households remember these failures. They develop rules that sound fussy until ignored. Never store straw damp. Never trust a feather bag near a draft. Never sew by such poor light that you cannot see the thread. Never place clean bedding on a suspect frame. Tradition is often just a list of mistakes that survived long enough to become advice. The apprentice learns quietly because bedding work is not taught with grand speeches. It is taught through correction, embarrassment, repetition, and the occasional sharp remark delivered over a pile of wool. The young helper begins by carrying, sweeping, holding cloth, fetching thread, shaking straw, and being told that they are somehow both too slow and too hurried. This is a traditional educational method, beloved by many centuries, and feared by every child within hearing distance. At first, the apprentice sees only mess. Straw here, fleece there, feathers escaping, cloth folded, tools half hidden beneath bundles. Slowly the order emerges. Better stems are kept aside. Coarse bits are not wasted, but sent to rougher uses. Wool is opened from the tips, not torn apart in clumps. Feathers are handled away from drafts. Needles are stuck in a known place. Finished seams are checked twice, because pride is cheaper than repairs only, until the mattress bursts. The body learns before the mind can explain. The apprentice feels how dry straw springs back slightly under the palm, while tired straw collapses. They learn the soft drag of clean wool and the gummy resistance of greasy locks. They discover that linen ticking has a direction and a temper. They learn to push filling into corners without making stones of it. They learn that beds are judged by the person lying on them, not by the person admiring them upright in a room. In towns, an apprentice to an upholsterer or bedding maker may learn measures, prices, stuffing weights, customer expectations, and the social meaning of materials. A feather bed for a prosperous household requires different handling than a servant's pallet. A mattress for an inn must endure strangers, damp clothes, fleas, and travelers who treat rented bedding with the tenderness of invading armies. Professional knowledge includes durability, honesty, and sometimes how to survive customers who believe every lump proves fraud. In the household, the apprenticeship is more intimate. Bedding connects to marriage portions, childbirth, sickness, hospitality, and death. A good feather bed may be named in a will. Sheets and blankets may be counted among family wealth. The apprentice learns that a bed is where people are born, recover, quarrel, sweat through fevers, and finally leave the world. By learning to make and mend bedding, the young worker learns how much of ordinary life rests on quiet competence. Years later, the apprentice may not remember every instruction, but the hands remember. They will test a seam automatically, shake a pillow with the right violence, and notice dampness in a bundle before anyone else. Quiet learning becomes quiet authority, and one day another child will be told, with great seriousness, that they are holding the cloth wrong. Markets bring measures, bargaining, and suspicion into the world of bedding. A household can grow straw and keep sheep, but not everyone has enough of the right materials. Town dwellers buy, inns buy, servants buy second hand. Newly married couples may need bedding as part of setting up a home. And wherever comfort can be sold, someone must decide whether the sack, bale, fleece, or feather bag is truly what the seller claims. At market, materials are weighed, squeezed, sniffed, and argued over. Wool may be offered as cleaner than it is. Feathers may be mixed with heavier quills or lower-grade stuffing. Straw may look long on the outside of a bundle, while the interior hides broken pieces. Ticking cloth may be praised for tightness, but a practiced buyer holds it up, rubs it, and imagines quills working through it in the dark. The conversation is calm on the surface and ruthless underneath, as many market conversations are. Measurements matter, because bedding is expensive in labor as well as money. A mattress too small for a frame leaves gaps where cold air and curses gather. One too large is awkward to turn and impossible to fit neatly. Bed sizes are not standardized the way modern buyers expect. Frames are made locally, inherited, altered, or built into rooms. A bedding maker must know the customer's bedstead, the intended filling, and the use. A servant's narrow pallet, a child's bed, a marriage bed, and a lodging house mattress all demand different compromises. Suspicion also clings to second-hand bedding. Used mattresses, pillows, and blankets are valuable, but they carry histories no one can fully inspect. Has the bed been aired? Was there sickness in the house? Are there insects in the seams? Has damp reached the stuffing? In periods of plague, fever, or poverty, bedding can be feared as well as desired. Authorities in some towns regulate or destroy infected goods. Ordinary buyers rely on smell, reputation, price, and hope, which is a thin mattress by itself. The market reminds us that sleep has always been tied to status. The rich can buy more layers, finer ticking, better feathers, and servants to maintain them. The poor buy what they can, mend what fails, and endure what remains. Yet both rich and poor meet the same basic question. Will this bed carry a body through the night? Before springs and foam, that answer depends on trust, craft, weather, honesty, and a buyer's ability to detect trouble before trouble is sewn shut. The bargaining ends with money, credit, barter, or a promise. The buyer carries away not just filling and cloth, but risk. If the bed proves good, the maker's name improves. If it fails, the story travels quickly. In bedding, reputation spreads almost as efficiently as feathers escaping a torn seam. Weather decides everything with the serene authority of something that cannot be reasoned with. A mattress may be carefully planned, well filled, and neatly sewn. But if the air turns damp for a week, the household becomes a drying committee. Bedding is carried, opened, shifted, propped near heat, moved away from sparks, and watched with the solemn attention normally reserved for sick relatives. The bed must be dry, because a damp bed steals warmth as quietly as a thief. In summer, good weather is a blessing. Straw can be harvested and dried. Wool can be washed and spread. Feathers can be aired without panic. Mattresses can be hauled outside, laid across rails or hedges, and beaten under sun. The smell of warm ticking and dust floats through the yard. Even insects dislike too much light and disturbance, though they are rarely defeated by one cheerful afternoon. Sunlight becomes part of housekeeping, a free tool that arrives only when it chooses. Autumn changes the calculation. New straw may be available after harvest, making it the natural season for renewing rough mattresses. But rain threatens every cartload. If straw is stored before it is dry, heat and mold can build in the stack. If leaves are gathered for bedding, they must be crisp enough to keep, not damp enough to rot. Bracken and fern need curing. Heather must be dried. The household races the season while pretending not to race, because no one wants to admit that winter is already standing in the lane. Winter is the harsh judge. Cold bedrooms make bedding essential, yet winter air makes drying difficult. People sleep under more layers, close curtains around beds, and trap warmth inside. That warmth includes human moisture, breath, sweat, damp clothes, and poor ventilation all enter the bedding. A bed that cannot be aired becomes heavy with use. In crowded rooms, several bodies may share the same sleeping space, multiplying warmth and damp together. Comfort and hygiene pull in opposite directions, and the old house chooses survival first. Spring brings hope and mud. Bedding can finally be dragged out, shaken, and examined after months of closed rooms. The household discovers what winter has done. Straw crushed to powder, wool flattened, seams strained, pests encouraged, smells deepened. The first dry, bright day becomes a ceremony of rescue. Mattresses hang in the air like defeated beasts. Dust flies. People cough. Someone says it is good to have fresh air, while everyone privately admits that fresh air has a lot of work to do. Weather is therefore part of the craft record. A fine mattress made in a damp season may behave worse than a humbler one prepared under dry skies. The old maker watches clouds with practical feeling. A bed is not finished when the hands are done. It is finished when the air has cooperated. The smell of labor is woven into old bedding so completely that it is almost a second filling. Modern mattresses try to smell like nothing, or like a showroom's idea of cleanliness. Earlier beds smell of the work that made them and the bodies that use them. Straw brings the field. Wool brings animal warmth. Feathers bring barnyard memory if poorly cleaned. Linen and hemp bring plant fiber, lye, smoke, sun, and storage. Then people add themselves night after night. In a cottage, the bed may stand near the hearth, which means smoke settles into blankets and curtains. Smoke can discourage some pests and dry the air a little, but it also clings to fabric until the bed smells faintly cooked. In damp houses, the smell moves lower toward earth and plaster. A mattress on the floor or a low pallet gathers cold from below. If the floor is packed earth, stone, or poorly sealed boards, bedding must fight the room itself. Sometimes it loses. Human smells are unavoidable. People work hard, wash irregularly by modern standards, sleep in linen shifts, wool garments, or whatever is practical, and bring the day to bed with them. Sweat, tallow candle smoke, leather, herbs, illness, milk from nursing mothers, salves, and damp wool clothing all enter the sleeping space. This does not mean every old bed was filthy all the time. Many households valued clean sheets, airing, laundering, and lavender or other herbs when available. It means cleanliness was work, not a default set. The labor of keeping smells under control could be constant. Sheets were boiled, beaten, rinsed, dried, and folded. Blankets were shaken and aired. Straw might be replaced. Wool might be opened and refreshed. Feather beds were turned and beaten to restore loft. Herbs such as lavender, rosemary, tansy, or sweet woodruff could be tucked into linens or strewn nearby, partly for scent, partly from practical hopes about insects. The scent of a well-kept bed was not perfume alone. It was evidence that someone had spent time fighting decay. And still, the old mattress held memory. A bed used through fever might be feared afterward. A bed in an inn might carry the odors of travelers, horses, rain, and smoke from a dozen roads. A fine chamber with hangings and feather bedding might smell better, but even luxury required servants to keep it that way. Comfort, again, depended on labor continuing after the bed was made. Without that labor, softness quickly turned stale. Smell also guided judgment when sight could not. In dim rooms, the nose found trouble, mildew, animal grease, stale feathers, smoke too deeply settled, sickness lingering in linen. People did not need modern laboratory language to understand that a bed could become unhealthy They had breath, memory, and the strong desire not to sleep inside a problem. Repairing what broke yesterday is one of the secret rhythms of old bedding. A mattress does not fail all at once. It leaks by degrees. A seam loosens. Straw pokes through. A rope under the bed sags. A patch wears thin where someone always sits to pull on shoes. A feather escapes. Then another. Then suddenly the room looks as if a very small bird has been insulted. Morning reveals the damage that night politely concealed. The first repair is often the seam. Heavy ticking strains under shifting filling, body weight, dragging, turning, and beating. Thread rots or abrades. A needle is threaded with linen or hemp, sometimes waxed, and the torn place is closed with short determined stitches. The work is not elegant unless the household has time for elegance. It is practical, firm, and slightly annoyed. A good patch does not apologize, it stays. If the filling has shifted, the mattress may be opened. This is a larger business. Straw or hay can be removed, shaken, replaced, or supplemented. Old crushed material may be sent to animals or compost. New straw is stuffed in, especially after harvest. Wool can be teased apart again if it has not felted too badly. Lumps are broken. Thin places are padded. Feathers are redistributed, a process that convinces everyone nearby that feathers have chosen freedom as a political program. The bedstead itself may require attention. Rope beds, common in many European and colonial households, depend on a web of cords threaded through the frame. These ropes loosen with use and humidity. Tightening them can improve the whole bed, giving rise to the familiar phrase about sleeping tight. Whether or not people said it exactly as later folklore imagines, the practical truth remains. A loose rope bed turns even good bedding into a hammock with poor intentions. Tightening requires a tool, leverage, and patience. Repairs carry emotion because bedding belongs to intimate life. A torn mattress may be embarrassing if guests are expected. A patched child's palate may reveal poverty. A repaired marriage bed may hold years of household history in its seams. Some bedding is too valuable to discard, especially feather beds and good wool mattresses. They are opened, refreshed, recovered, inherited, and altered. Before disposable comfort, people lived with objects long enough for maintenance to become a relationship. The bed broke, the household answered, and night returned to test the answer. A repaired mattress carries visible humility. Patches overlap. New cloth differs from old. A seam wanders where someone worked in poor light. But these marks are not failure. They are the household refusing waste. The old bed survives by accepting evidence of survival, one mend layered over another, and by teaching each sleeper that endurance can sometimes be stitched into ordinary cloth. Around the hearth, bedding work becomes family work, folded into the ordinary evening as naturally as mending socks, or telling a child to stop dropping rushes into the fire. The hearth is warmth, light, kitchen, drying place, and gathering point. It is also dangerous for cloth and feathers, so the work happens with one eye on sparks and another on whoever is waving a candle too close to the ticking. Women often carried much of this labor, though men and children were not absent from it. A man might build or repair the bed frame, cut poles, tighten ropes, haul straw, or carry mattresses outside for beating. Women might sew ticking, wash linens, sort feathers, manage sheets, and judge when bedding had become unacceptable. Children shook small items, picked burrs, gathered leaves, held corners, and learned that useful work could be assigned at any age. The bed was domestic, but not simple. The hearth also shapes sleeping arrangements. In poorer homes, people sleep close to the main room for warmth. Pallets may be rolled out at night and lifted away by day. A straw mattress can serve several bodies, especially children or servants. Privacy is limited. Bedtime is not a retreat into a private upholstered island. It is a rearrangement of a working room. The smell of supper remains. Ash settles. Someone turns in sleep, and the straw answers with a loud, dry complaint. For infants and the sick, bedding becomes more careful and more urgent. A cradle needs clean padding. A feverish person sweats through sheets. A birth bed must be prepared with linens, old cloths, warmth, and whatever comfort the household can spare. The same mattress may witness ordinary sleep one week and crisis the next. Its maintenance is therefore not vanity. It is part of care. Clean enough, dry enough, warm enough. These are survival words. In wealthier households, servants perform much of the same work at larger scale. Beds are made, curtains drawn, sheets changed, warming pans used, mattresses aired, pillows plumped. The visible elegance of a great bed depends on invisible servants, moving quietly through cold corridors with linen, coal, pans, and aching arms. The hearth may be larger, the fabric finer, the bed higher, but the principle remains. Comfort is social. Someone makes it for someone else, and in old bedding, that someone is often tired too. When the work is done, the hearth keeps glowing as if nothing important has happened. Yet a bed has been made ready, and that is important. The household can sleep a little warmer, receive a guest with less shame, or lay down a sick child on something cleaner than yesterday. Domestic labor rarely receives ceremony, so the room simply grows quiet around it. The long middle hours are when the old mattress stops being an object and becomes a landscape under the body. At first, sleep may come easily. The day has been full of lifting, sorting, walking, cooking, washing, carrying, and worrying. The room darkens. The fire sinks. Blankets settle. Then, sometime after midnight, the mattress begins its quiet argument. A mattress begins its quiet argument. A straw bed crackles with every movement. The sound is not loud in daylight, but at night it can seem enormous. A person turns to ease one hip, and the whole mattress whispers news of the decision. If several people share the bed, everyone receives a report. The filling shifts away from pressure. A hollow forms. A ridge gathers along the side. The sleeper learns to move carefully, not because the bed is fragile, but because the bed is opinionated. Cold comes from below. If the mattress is thin or damp, the floor breathes upward. Bed ropes or boards press through compacted filling. A shoulder goes numb. A knee finds a hard place. The back settles into a curve the spine did not request. Modern people may complain when a hotel pillow is too high. The older sleeper sometimes negotiates with a sack of plant stems while wearing a nightcap and trying not to wake a child. Feather beds offer a different drama. They can feel wonderfully soft at first, wrapping the body in warmth. But feathers move. They pile around the sleeper, leaving thin places beneath heavier bones. In cold weather, that enveloping softness is precious. In heat, it can become suffocating. Quills occasionally poke through. If the bed has not been aired, a heavy closeness gathers under the covers. A luxurious bed can still require midnight engineering. Shake the pillow, punch the bolster, redistribute the feather seat, then lie down before it migrates again. Wool holds warmth more steadily, though it too compacts with time. It can cradle the body better than straw, especially when well prepared. Yet old wool mattresses become dense and stubborn unless opened, teased, and refreshed. They remember weight. They flatten where generations have slept. A family may accept these shapes as part of the bed's character, which is a polite way of saying everyone knows where not to lie. By dawn, the mattress has delivered its report in aches, warmth, sweat, crumbs of straw, or unexpected softness. The sleeper rises not from perfect rest, but from a truce. The bed did enough. The body survived. And later, when someone beats the mattress in the yard, they are not merely cleaning it. These hours explain why morning maintenance matters. The bed's behavior in darkness teaches the hands what daylight must fix. A ridge is not abstract when it has lived under your ribs. A hollow is not theoretical when it has bent your back. The old sleeper becomes an unwilling expert in material science by dawn. When the process refuses to hurry, old bedding teaches the household patience the uncomfortable way. A modern mattress arrives in a truck or expands from a box with almost theatrical confidence. Earlier bedding grows slowly from seasons. Straw waits for harvest. Wool waits for shearing, washing, drying, carding. Flax waits through retting, breaking, scutching, spinning, weaving, bleaching. Feathers wait for birds, kitchens, plucking, saving, and many small acts of storage. This slowness shapes decisions. A poor household cannot simply replace a spoiled mattress in February because everyone agrees the smell has become personally offensive. The right materials may not be available. Money may be absent. Weather may be hostile. The family patches, airs, turns, adds a blanket, lays down extra clothing, or shifts sleeping places. Comfort is delayed because production is tied to agriculture, animals, and trade. Even professional bedding makers work within limits. A customer may want a mattress quickly, but the shop has only so much good ticking, so much clean wool, so many feathers, and so many hands. Rushing means uneven stuffing, weak seams, damp filling, and complaints. Skilled workers know that bedding must settle, be adjusted, and sometimes opened again. A bed made too fast may look promising on delivery and become miserable after 3 nights, which is a slow form of customer review. The slowest parts are often invisible. Drying is not active, yet everything depends on it. Bleaching linen in the sun can take repeated wetting and spreading. Airing feathers cannot be replaced by wishing. Wool must be loosened enough to loft. Straw must be kept away from damp. A good mattress is therefore full of waiting time, and waiting time belongs to people who can afford not to use a thing immediately. There is a quiet social divide hidden here. Wealth can store comfort in advance. Extra sheets, spare mattresses, feather beds, blankets, servants to manage them. Rooms where bedding can be aired without becoming animal bedding or children's play equipment. Poverty lives closer to necessity. If the current bed is bad, you still sleep on it tonight. If new straw is not ready, your back receives the news. The refusal to hurry also gives old bedding its texture of continuity. The bed connects last harvest to this winter, last year's geese to this year's pillow, a grandmother's linen to a daughter's marriage. Comfort accumulates slowly, so does misery. A lump ignored in spring may become an old enemy by autumn. Before springs and foam, time itself was one of the materials in the mattress, and it was rarely soft on command. Patience, then, is not a virtue added to bedding work from outside. It is built into the fibers. Rush it and the bed complains. Store it too soon, and damp speaks later. Sew it carelessly, and filling escapes. The process keeps its own calendar, older and stricter than any household impatience. Trade routes enter the bedroom more often than we notice. A mattress may look domestic, tucked under blankets in a quiet room, but its materials can carry long journeys. Cotton ticking might come through merchants. Fine linen may reflect regional skill. Wool can be local or traded. Feathers may be collected from estates, farms, markets, or dealers who move goods from place to place. Even humble bedding sits at the end of roads, carts, animals, boats, and tired backs. Imagine a pack animal stepping through mud with bales tied to its sides. The wool inside is not yet comfort. It is weight, smell, and value. Rain threatens it. Thieves may want it. A bad road can delay it until the buyer becomes impatient and the material becomes damp. In port towns, imported cotton or finished cloth adds another chain of labor. Growers, spinners, weavers, dyers, sailors, warehousemen, and shopkeepers. By the time fabric becomes a mattress cover, many hands have already touched the future bed. Feathers travel in a more delicate economy. In regions where geese are common, feather collecting can be part of household routine, but larger towns need supply. Feather dealers must keep goods dry and clean. Low-quality feathers, broken quills, or adulterated stuffing led to suspicion. The buyer wants loft without hidden weight. A bag that feels satisfyingly heavy may be less valuable if the weight comes from quill, dirt, or moisture. Softness, inconveniently, is not always heavy. Transport affects cost. A poor family may rely on what is nearby because distant comfort is expensive. Straw from local fields, leaves from nearby woods, or wool from one's own sheep makes sense. A merchant's better ticking or fine feather supply belongs to households with coin. In this way, geography lies beneath the sleeper. A marshland bed may know reeds. A mountain home may know wool. A farming village may know rye straw. A city lodging house may know whatever could be bought cheaply and replaced reluctantly. Tired animals are part of the story too. Oxen, horses, donkeys, and mules move the bulk that becomes bedding. Their labor is hidden beneath the phrase, "materials arrived." A cart stuck in ruts can postpone a bed. A lame horse can delay a delivery. A storm on a river can keep cloth from market. The sleeper who later complains about a lump may never think of the animal that carried the ticking through rain, but the lump and the journey belong to the same world. Old comfort was local when it had to be, traded when it could be, and always dependent on movement before it could become rest. So the bedroom is never truly isolated. It is connected by cart tracks, grazing land, river crossings, toll gates, markets, barns, and warehouses. When the sleeper lies down, all those distances compress beneath the body. The night feels private, but the mattress has traveled farther than the dreamer may know. Rules, taxes, and guild eyes also find their way into bedding, which seems unfair until you remember that authorities have always been talented at discovering taxable things. Cloth, wool, feathers, trade, apprenticeships, market stalls, and professional craft can all fall under regulation. A mattress is soft, but the world around it is not. In many towns, crafts involving upholstery, weaving, sewing, or featherwork may be watched by guilds or local authorities. Guild rules can protect quality, control training, restrict who may sell, and preserve reputation. They can also make life difficult for outsiders, widows, poor workers, or anyone trying to earn a little money without belonging to the recognized craft body. The customer sees a finished bed. Behind it stand rules about measures, materials, marks, prices, and rights to work. Taxes and tolls raise the price of comfort indirectly. Wool moving through a market, cloth entering a town, feathers sold by dealers, or timber used for bedsteads can carry duties. A household may not think, "Ah, yes, taxation is why my hip hurts," but the connection exists. If better materials cost more, poorer buyers settle for rougher filling. If cloth is expensive, old ticking is patched again. If transport raises prices, local inferior materials become attractive because misery, at least, has no shipping fee. Regulation can also respond to health fears. Bedding associated with disease may be burned, aired, seized, or restricted, depending on time and place. Inns and lodging houses attract suspicion because beds pass from stranger to stranger. Authorities sometimes worry about infected textiles, lice, fleas, and general uncleanliness. Ordinary people worry too, though often with less paperwork. A bed that has held a sick person may carry emotional and practical danger long after the fever ends. Professional honesty matters because the inside of a mattress is hidden. Once sewn shut, who can easily prove what filling was used? A reputable maker builds trust. A dishonest one can mix poor materials where they cannot be seen. Guild inspection, customer gossip, and repeat trade help police the craft, but no system removes suspicion. The sleeper's body becomes the final inspector, and the body files its complaint slowly, night after night. This chapter of rules may sound less cozy than straw and feathers, yet it reveals something important. Bedding is never merely private. The bed belongs to economies, laws, fears, and reputations. A quiet room at night contains decisions made in markets, halls, workshops, and tax booths. Even under blankets, the old sleeper is still lying inside society. Even resistance to rules becomes part of the story. People reuse, barter privately, mend beyond regulation, and make do outside formal markets. Official systems may define honest measures, but households define necessity. Between the two lies the actual bed, patched, bought, questioned, and slept upon anyway. Making enough for winter is the great practical anxiety behind old bedding. Summer discomfort can be endured with fewer layers, open shutters, and a philosophical hatred of insects. Winter is less forgiving. A thin mattress steals heat from below. Poor blankets leak warmth above. Damp bedding chills the body no matter how tired the sleeper is. Before central heating, the bed must become a small climate system made of straw, wool, feathers, linen, curtains, and luck. Preparations begin before the cold arrives. Fresh straw is set aside after harvest, if there is enough. Wool is cleaned and stored. Blankets are inspected. Sheets are counted. Bed curtains, where available, are mended because they trap warmth around the sleeper and block drafts. A warming pan may be prepared in wealthier or better equipped homes. A metal pan filled with hot coals and passed carefully between sheets. Used badly, it can scorch linen or start a fire, which is a dramatic way to solve the problem of a cold bed by creating several worse problems. Poor households use layering creatively. Clothing may be laid on top. Cloaks become blankets, sacks, skins, and old textiles are pressed into service. Children sleep together. Servants share beds. Animals may be nearby, not for charm, but because bodies produce heat and buildings leak it. The line between bedding and general household fabric blurs. Anything that can soften, insulate, or block a draft may be recruited. The mattress itself must be lifted away from the coldest surfaces if possible. A bedstead helps, raising the sleeper from floor damp. A rope or slat support allows air beneath, though that air may be cold. A pallet on the floor is more vulnerable. Straw refreshed in autumn may make a noticeable difference, not because it is luxurious, but because uncrushed dry stems hold more air. Air, trapped properly, is warmth. Crushed damp matter is simply regret with texture. Winter also reduces the chance to air bedding. Snow, rain, short days, and smoke-filled rooms make maintenance harder exactly when bedding is most used. A feather bed may feel heavenly on a freezing night, but if it cannot be dried and shaken, it grows heavy. Wool blankets absorb body moisture. Comfort becomes a balance between warmth and freshness, and warmth usually wins. So the household stores patches and plans. A good winter bed is not one object, but a defensive arrangement. It is mattress, under blanket, sheet, top blankets, curtains, nightclothes, cap, maybe another body, maybe a brick or pan warmed safely, maybe a prayer that the roof does not drip. Before springs and foam, surviving winter sleep meant building a nest against the season with whatever history had left in the cupboard. When morning comes after a bitter night, the value of preparation is measured in fingers that still move easily and children who wake warm. That is not a small achievement. Old bedding may have been miserable by modern standards, but in winter it could still be the household's most important defense after the roof and fire. The last careful finishing is where a rough sack becomes something a household is willing to call a bed. The filling has been chosen, dried, and worked. The ticking has been sewn. Now the surface must be evened, the seams checked, the corners settled, and the whole thing persuaded into a shape that looks restful. This final stage is quiet, but it decides whether the sleeper blesses the maker or thinks unkind thoughts until dawn. Workers press the mattress with palms and forearms, feeling for hollows. They lift one side and shake it. They need stubborn places. With straw, they try to spread the stems without snapping them into useless dust. With wool, they loosen compacted patches. With feathers, they coax loft evenly across the bed, knowing perfectly well that feathers will later form private societies in the corners. The goal is not mathematical perfection. It is mercy distributed widely enough. Tufting may be used in some mattresses to hold filling in place. Stitches or cords pass through the mattress, drawing the surfaces together at intervals. This helps prevent contents from drifting too freely, though it also creates little depressions. The technique requires judgment. Too tight, and the bed becomes a quilted board. Too loose, and the filling wanders. Buttons, tapes, or knots can mark the surface. A finished mattress may therefore show a pattern of control, small dimples where human planning tries to outwit gravity. Edges are important. A weak edge collapses when someone sits down, and people sit on beds constantly. To dress, nurse babies, speak quietly, recover from illness, or simply stare at the floor before beginning the day. Edge failure is not glamorous, but it is deeply annoying. The seam must be strong. The corner must not sag. If a bed is shared, the outer edges become borders in a nightly country where space is negotiated without treaties. Finally, the bed is dressed. A sheet smooths over the roughness. Blankets add warmth. Pillows and bolsters are placed, each with its own story of feathers, chaff, wool, or rags. In better rooms, curtains soften the bed into a chamber within a chamber. In humbler ones, a coverlet may be the only visible grace. Either way, the finishing hides much of the labor beneath. This is part of the old bed's trick. It looks simple when made, a place to lie down. But inside it are fields, animals, weather, washing, sewing, transport, rules, repairs, and aching hands. The final smooth sheet is almost a kindness, concealing the struggle so the sleeper can pretend, for a few hours, that rest is easy. The finished bed waits silently, perhaps looking better than it has any right to look. The maker knows where the difficult corner was. The sleeper may never know if the work succeeds. That is the mercy of good craft. It disappears beneath the person who benefits from it, leaving only the possibility of rest. Packing the finished work turns bedding into property that can move through the world. A mattress may be carried upstairs, loaded onto a cart, sent with a bride, delivered to an inn, stored in a chest, or shifted from one room to another as fortunes change. Because old bedding is bulky, awkward, and often valuable, moving it is never as simple as moving an idea. It must be rolled, tied, covered, lifted, protected from rain, and defended from dirt. Straw mattresses are the easiest to renew, but not always worth transporting far. If the filling is cheap and local, the ticking may be saved while the old straw is discarded. A household, moving a short distance, might carry the whole pallet. A longer journey may reduce bedding to covers, sheets, blankets, and empty sacks to be refilled later. This is practical, but emotionally strange. The bed you slept on yesterday becomes a folded skin waiting for a new harvest. Feather beds and good wool mattresses travel differently. They represent stored wealth. They are packed carefully in covers or chests, kept away from damp, and sometimes listed in household inventories with more seriousness than modern people give to appliances. A feather bed can be part of a dowry, a sign that a new household will begin with softness rather than bare boards. It may be inherited, pledged, sold, or fought over. Softness becomes a family asset. Transport is comic if you are not the one doing it. A rolled mattress resists doorways. A feather bed bulges like an overfed cloud. Wool is heavy, stairs narrow, carts jolt, rain threatens. One torn cover can release filling at exactly the wrong moment, producing a trail that announces your bedding to the street. The people carrying it may be servants, relatives, apprentices, or paid porters, all united by the ancient belief that beds are heavier than they look. Storage brings its own dangers. Bedding put away badly can be ruined quietly. Chests must be dry. Mice enjoy soft materials. Moths enjoy wool. Insects hide in seams. A mattress stored in an attic may bake in summer and chill in winter. Sheets folded too long in damp conditions develop spots and smells. The finished work still needs attention even when no one is sleeping on it. Packing shows again that bedding is not static. It moves with marriage, migration, service, inheritance, illness, and seasonal need. It follows people because sleep follows people. Before factory mattresses became standardized objects delivered by retail systems, bedding belonged to the flow of household life, as mobile and vulnerable as the people who depended on it. A bed arriving at a new home changes the room immediately. Before the cooking pots are arranged or the shelves filled, bedding says that someone intends to stay. It makes shelter personal. Even rolled and tied, it carries the shape of nights already lived and nights still expected. What factories later changed was not simply softness. They changed expectation. Springs, standardized ticking, machine stitching, processed cotton, industrial felt, metal bed frames, and eventually latex and foam altered what people believed a mattress should do. Comfort became less seasonal, less handmade, less dependent on whether straw dried properly or feathers had been saved long enough. The bed began to arrive as a product rather than a household project. Early spring mattresses introduced a new kind of support. Instead of relying only on packed fibers over rope or boards, metal coils could flex under weight and rise again. The idea was not instantly universal or cheap, and early versions had their own problems: noise, rust, uneven construction, and cost. The body could be held by a structure designed to rebound, not merely by stuffing slowly surrendering beneath it. For hips, shoulders, and backs accustomed to compacted straw or tired wool, this was a serious revolution disguised as furniture. Factories also improved consistency. A machine-woven ticking could be tighter and more uniform. Industrial carding and filling preparation could reduce some lumps. Standard sizes slowly made buying easier. Retailers could advertise features rather than merely materials. A customer might compare models, thickness, spring counts, and warranties, instead of trusting a local maker's judgment or a market seller's honesty. The modern showroom, with its strangely public invitation to lie down while wearing shoes, belongs to this longer change. Sanitation changed too, though never perfectly. Processed materials, washable covers, metal frames, and later synthetic foams offered new ways to resist pests and moisture. Bed bugs did not vanish, as any honest sentry must admit, but the old ecosystem of straw ticks, reused stuffing, wooden cracks, and rarely aired rooms began to ship. Urban reformers, hospitals, armies, and institutions all cared about bedding because crowded sleep could spread misery quickly. Industrial bedding promised manageability. Yet factories did not remove labor, they moved it. Workers in mills, metal shops, cotton fields, shipping networks, chemical plants, and mattress factories took on the effort once scattered through households and small workshops. Comfort became easier for the buyer because other hands, often poorly paid, made the parts far away. The bed grew cleaner in appearance, more predictable in shape, and more anonymous in origin. The great change was psychological. People began to expect that a mattress should remain even, resilient, and hygienic, without being opened, restuffed, and argued with every season. That expectation is so ordinary now that we barely notice it. But to someone hauling a straw mattress into the sun for beating, it would sound like a fairy tale with excellent lumbar support. The factory bed did not end discomfort, as anyone with a bad mattress purchase can testify in a whisper at 3 in the morning. But it changed the baseline. Misery became more often a defect than an assumption. That quiet shift may be one of the least dramatic and most appreciated revolutions in domestic history. What was lost in the speed is harder to name, because nobody sensible wants to romanticize a damp straw mattress full of insects. Let us be clear and merciful. Many old beds were bad. Some were cold, lumpy, smoky, stale, shared beyond comfort, and maintained by people who were already exhausted. If the past could try a decent modern mattress, it would not nobly refuse. It would probably lie down, sigh once, and miss work for 3 days. Still, industrial speed changed the relationship between people and bedding. Older households understood their beds as materials in motion. Straw came from a field they knew. Wool came from sheep someone had seen. Linen might be spun, woven, inherited, patched, and named in memory. Feathers accumulated slowly. A bed carried visible traces of seasons, animals, family labor, and local skill. It was troublesome, but it was legible. Modern mattresses are wonderfully mysterious. Inside them are foams, adhesives, coils, insulators, fabrics, fire barriers, and manufacturing choices most sleepers never see. This is convenient. It is also distancing. When a mattress fails, many people cannot repair it. They replace it. The old world repaired because it had to. Opening a tick, refreshing straw, teasing wool, or patching cloth kept the object within household knowledge. The work was tiring, but it created familiarity. The speed also reduced certain communal rhythms. Beating mattresses in the yard, airing bedding on sunny days, sewing ticks by the hearth, saving feathers over years, tightening rope beds, and judging straw after harvest tied sleep to public and family routines. These routines included drudgery, social control, gossip, and inequality, so we need not mourn them too sweetly. Yet they made comfort visible as effort. A clean, dry, well-made bed was not assumed. It was appreciated because everyone knew the alternative. Craft knowledge thinned as products standardized. The hand that could feel whether wool was opened enough, the eye that knew good ticking, the nose that detected damp filling before disaster, the judgment that arranged straw to reduce ridges. These skills became less common. Some survived in upholstery, quilting, textile work, museum practice, and traditional crafts, but ordinary sleepers no longer needed them. Perhaps what was lost is not misery, but awareness. The old mattress made dependence obvious. On weather, fields, animals, family, servants, markets, and maintenance. The modern mattress hides dependence under a clean sheet. That is a gift, especially at bedtime. But for a few quiet minutes, it is worth remembering the hands that once built rest from scratch, and the bodies that slept imperfectly upon their work. Remembering this does not require surrendering modern comfort. It only asks that comfort become less invisible. The old skills, smells, and seasonal chores remind us that rest was made by systems of care, not granted by nature. If the modern bed hides that care, history can uncover it gently for a moment before sleep. At the end of this quiet journey, the old bed remains in the room after everyone else has faded into sleep. Its straw has settled, its wool has warmed. Its feathers, if it has feathers, have migrated into shapes known only to the night. The ticking holds together for one more dawn. The ropes beneath keep their tired tension. Outside, weather continues deciding things. Inside, the sleeper turns carefully, finding the least troublesome hollow. We have followed the mattress backward from the modern promise of springs and foam into a world where bedding was grown, gathered, sorted, washed, stuffed, sewn, beaten, aired, taxed, traded, repaired, inherited, and sometimes endured with heroic politeness. It was never just a soft rectangle. It was harvest and husbandry. It was women's work and men's hauling, children's chores and apprentices' mistakes. It was wealth when filled with feathers, poverty when reduced to old straw, and ordinary life when patched yet again, because the night was coming, whether the bed was ready or not. The misery of old mattresses was not one single flaw. It was a chorus of small betrayals. Straw crushed, hay scratched, wool compacted, feathers clumped, quills poked, ropes sagged. Damp crept in. Insects took liberties. Smoke settled. Seams opened. Weather interrupted drying. Money limited choices. A good bed required maintenance, and a bad bed required endurance. Most people knew both, and yet there is tenderness in the effort. Someone shook the bedding before a child lay down. Someone saved feathers for years, so a daughter could begin married life with softness. Someone tightened ropes for a sick relative. Someone carried a mattress into weak sunlight after winter, and beat out dust with the practical hope that tonight might be better. The past is full of discomfort, but it is also full of people trying to reduce discomfort with the tools they had. So as you rest now, with whatever modern mattress is beneath you, let it become a quiet miracle without needing to announce itself. The support under your shoulders, the evenness beneath your back, the dryness, the clean cover, the fact that no one had to harvest your bed this week. All of it is a late historical luxury pretending to be ordinary. The old rooms grow still behind us. The straw rustle softens. The candle lowers. The household has done what it can. If sleep comes, it comes not because the bed is perfect, but because tired bodies are generous. And here, safely far from the scratchy ticking and the midnight ridge beneath the hip, you can let the story settle, breathe slowly, and drift into the kind of rest so many earlier sleepers would have recognized only as a very pleasant dream. And if this thought makes your own bed feel a little softer, let it. History is not only battles, kings, and inventions. It is also the slow victory of fewer aches in the morning. Somewhere behind that victory are fields of straw, rooms of feathers, hands with needles, and countless people who hope the next night would be kinder.